Welcome to Mastering Mortgages, presented by Revolution Mortgage, the podcast that demystifies the world of mortgages, real estate, and homeownership. Our goal is to empower and inspire homebuyers, real estate professionals, and mortgage industry leaders. My name is Danielle, and I want to invite you to join me as I sit down with today's guest to talk about practical tips and valuable insights into the mortgage industry. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mastering Mortgages podcast, presented by Revolution Mortgage. This is Danielle, and today we have two incredible guests joining us. We have Brian Covey, who is the EVP of Strategy and Development here at Revolution, as well as Larry Steinway, who is a branch production manager based out of the Chicago area. So with that, let's get started. First, I just want to say thank you guys for coming on to our podcast episode so that we can learn a little bit more about the current trends in the real estate and mortgage industry. Today, I have Brian Covey and Larry Steinway with me, so super excited to have them on board and just pick their brains a little bit. So first off, I did want to start with something a little bit more fun. I wanted to play a quick game called Buy, Sell, or Rent. So I will throw out a hypothetical property and you will tell me what you would do with it and just a quick reason why. So for the first one, we'll say a beachfront cottage, just a small cottage right on the beach with stunning ocean views, direct access to the sand. What would you do?
Yes. Okay, Brian, I'm ready. Can I take my first stab at it? All right.
Go for it. Go, Larry.
All right. Beachfront cottage.
Yes, buy,
Right
sell,
now,
or rent. Mm-hmm.
I would sell. And
why?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that question. Here's why. I would sell because I do think we're starting to see economic indicators of people with a higher net worth are starting to get rid of their toys. Okay. And that always to me is an economic indicator if we're going to start to see a deflation in values, okay, of properties, of assets. How do I know this? Okay. Not because I just Google away, because I have a relationship with one of the top, top insurance agents in the country for one of the largest insurance agencies in the country. Okay. And a great friend of mine, Ryan, and he said, Larry, the first indicator for we know that 6 months from now things are going to get ugly is when they stop their policies on their Porsches, on their wave runners, on their boats, on their Harley Davidsons. When we see the higher net worth people get rid of their toys, that is an early indicator for us that we're heading into a new direction. Very, very much, we say we're in a recession now in the mortgage industry, but, the high net worth folks, I don't think are feeling that yet. And he thinks that's going to happen. So I hear stuff like that. I think that now is a great time to sell that property before we feel that pain 6 months down the road from the Fed actions and their interest rate hikes. That's my answer.
Yeah, perfect. Well then, Brian, I'll give you the next one here. A downtown condo. It's a modern condo in the heart of a bustling downtown area, close to restaurants, shops, and public transportation. Would you suggest buy, sell, or rent on this one?
Being that I'm a real estate investor and I love real estate, I'm renting that. And here's why. Low inventory. Person probably buying there can afford to pay higher rent. They're going to love the restaurants, the proximity to probably where they work, they play, they want to do some things around town. And I think in today's market, if you've owned that, especially the last few years, you purchased it in the last 5 to 10 years even, you have a great interest rate, you can rent that out, you'll be able to cash flow that. And I think you want to hold on to that asset for as long as you can. So I'm renting it.
All right. I like that. All right, Larry, we'll go back to you. Just another scenario we have here. A rural farmhouse, picturesque farmhouse with acres of land, ideal for farming, having a peaceful rural retreat. What do you think, Larry, on this one?
I am a big fan of holding on to farmhouse properties. Okay. I think that properties like that typically are in rural areas, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And rural areas really, I don't think, feel the swings that we feel in more urban markets, coastal markets. If you look at the history of economic downturns and upturns, California, Florida, boy, they go up 30%, they go down 30%. You take a look at the Midwest, for example, where I assume a farmhouse is going to be, I'm going to assume some type of Midwestern area, maybe. But I would say that those properties have only really fluctuated typically about 12% in large economic downturns. So I feel it's a safe investment, but I also don't think that you're going to get a ton of appreciation out of a property like that. So if you retain it and you could turn it into a business, monetize it, rental, bed and breakfast, do things with it, maybe you sell out some of the land. There's a lot of options with it. But for right now, today, I'm holding on to that property.
All right. So you're saying maybe leaning more towards like buying a property like that, or just somebody has it already, keep it.
Would I sell it or rent it? Maybe, but would I buy a property like that right now? I probably would too. I think that would be a good investment in real estate right now. I definitely do. I think if somebody's selling a property like that, they're either feeling an economic pinch in their life. Maybe it's time. The family's owned it for years. It's time to get rid of it. And I also know as interest rates come down, those types of properties are going to become more in demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're not going to make any more land too, so that's also something to consider. But perfect. And then the last one here, Brian, how about a suburban family home, spacious suburban home with a good school district, large backyard, and a friendly neighborhood? Would you buy, sell, or rent it?
Those are probably the most popular right now. And the reason why we see people buying, selling, or moving is they want to move in great schools. They want to be near their churches, their, places their kids are going to play and all of that. So, I'd potentially be buying if I needed to. If I needed to move though, I would sell that property. And then also, I think about depending on if they're going to be empty nesters soon or they need to downsize, that's probably a property you want to hold on to. So you might rent it. So I think depending on where you are in the cycle, you could choose one of all three and you couldn't go wrong. I like those properties because that's where people always have a demand with families expanding and kids coming, grandparents maybe need family to come over. It's good property.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, with all those properties, I think, Brian, I think that last one, the good old suburban house, that's probably the choicest piece of real estate in the U.S. today. Everyone's looking for a good home in a good neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. All right, great. Well, then we will get started here with our first topic, just about current trends. So the millennial generation is a hot topic in real estate. And how are their buying habits different from previous generations, and what challenges do they face in today's market?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So
Yeah.
Millennials, I think what we're seeing, if you're looking at them against like Gen X and baby boomers, is they traditionally think they need to save more of a down payment. They're saving up to actually put that down payment. And one of the solutions today for them would be getting education about down payment assistance program, whether it's even maybe FHA, maybe one of them's a veteran, so they have 0% down, and looking at low down payment options. That's usually their barrier to entry. What we found, most millennials actually have good income and they can qualify. They may not get that home they think they could have because 5 years ago that home was priced differently. But I think that's the difference in millennials today. And I saw a stat the other day is almost 50% of millennials actually do own a home. A lot of them are interested in buying a home. In the stat, if I'm not wrong, it was only like 13% or so said they would never buy a home. Like that's just, they're going to rent, they're going to travel the world. They didn't want to be tied down. And so for millennials today, what's different, I think, is they don't have the down payment. So they need to figure out that solution. But to me, that's always been something we need to figure out through the life cycle of, even when I purchased my first home over 20 years ago, you didn't really have much of a down payment either. And you have to learn what programs exist for you. I think what I'm seeing with millennials too is they are now, with remote work, they're able to buy further out. They don't have to be right in the city. They don't have to be right next to somewhere. Maybe they don't even have kids yet. So the school district and things don't matter as much. They have some options that are there. And so that's some of the trends that we've seen that are a little bit different than maybe Gen X or baby boomers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a different angle on that. And obviously, obviously this is related to mortgage, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about in the general, we're a mortgage team, and I'm thinking about how this affects our business. And one of the areas, believe it or not, that I found some research on is engagements. The millennial sector is what really right now the largest segment of the 72 million millennials in the United States, I think it is. The largest sector is obviously that 26, 27 to 32. Okay, that's the largest sector. Well, Signet Corporation did a study that engagements are actually expected to really boom over the next 5 years. Believe it or not, engagements are still not back to where we were at pre-COVID levels. And so, when I look at trends and I look at millennials, I really feel that, listen, that engagement leads to what? It leads to family, and it leads to let's buy a home, let's get out of that rental where I met you and we met out at the FARs in our hometown, and now we're married, we're together, and we're living together. Let's go buy a place together. And so I'm starting to see that there's going to be a trend towards marriages. Marriage is going to be on the rise. And I think that's really going to impact the millennial sector, and especially that sector 27, 28 to 32. They're going to really jump into the market over the next few years. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great point. People definitely, marriage is a reason that people move or need to buy a home. Uh,
Somebody said that we're not back to pre-COVID levels of marriage. It's very interesting. That's going to be documented, by the way. Okay.
Pent up demand.
Pent up demand. I would say that's a great. That's great. What else you got? What's going on?
Yeah, perfect. Well, kind of related to that too. So, today's market, we've seen supply and demand imbalances and how that's impacted home prices. What strategies do you think buyers, whether it's millennials or just any buyer out there, use to navigate in these competitive markets and just unique markets, really?
You want me to take a stab at this one, Bry? Should I go first?
Go for it, and then I'll piggyback on and share
Yeah,
some
yeah.
insights.
I think one of the things that is really prohibiting a lot of buyers is cash flow. They're afraid of the high interest rates, which affects their monthly cash flow. There's, it's funny. I've seen a large decrease in the buy down products, for example, the 2-1 buy down. Okay, I think the 2-1 buy down is the best product out there. And I think what we need to do as professionals in our industry, we need to educate our referral partners, those who are selling the homes, to not be afraid of the buy down. A lot of buyers agents I know say, well, I really don't want to make an offer with a buy down in there because the seller's going to get all kind of sketchy. We don't want to do that. But I think that if there was more education around it, both buyers and sellers, especially the agents on these sides of the transactions, would see that this is a benefit for everybody involved, all parties involved. I get to buy a home with a lower interest rate. I'm going to refinance it down the road. I'm leveraging my monthly cash flow because some of my friends are in their mortgages at 3%, bragging about how their payments so low. Well, we want to move, we want to buy. And so there's just one example of one product where I think a really good strategy is the buy down. And just kind of going to throw it over back to Brian. That was kind of what I was thinking on that part.
Yeah. I like that tactic from a payment standpoint, right? Because this 2-1 buy down, most people have seen it and all that out there, but you're right, Larry. Like if rates, let's just round them up, just say that they're 7 3/4 today, simple, right? And you can have 5 3/4, and then you can go to 6 3/4. You're adjusting. For most people, they're expecting their income to go up a little bit. Maybe they have a side business, second job. They can earn additional money in 2 years. And so I think I love that from a tactical standpoint. The other strategy I'm sharing quite a bit is I love the holistic approach of like building wealth through real estate. And so what I would look at is maybe the home that you want today, you're priced out because rates went up. Call it a $500,000 home. And that has moved up. It's out of your budget today on a monthly payment. But what if you went and bought and you found a home today that was in that 300, maybe 350, so less than what you expected, and you are going to have to make some compromises, but you do some plans to renovate the home, invest some money there, fix it up, with the goal being in 3 years, 5 years, you rent that property and you're saving up along the way. And then you buy that home you really wanted, which, by the way, at that point, you may be able to even upgrade even further. You might have kids, your life could change. But now what you have an opportunity to do is buy a home under your budget today that fits. Down the road, rent it, create some wealth, build appreciation over time, owning that, have someone else pay your mortgage while you rent it. Rents will stay strong. Then go buy another home when your situation has changed down the road. That's, to me, that was the way we started in real estate. It's something I teach. Most people aren't teaching that holistic approach to how I would do that. And the last strategy I would tell you today, with supply and demand being an issue, is look, you have to work with a great real estate agent in your local market, because what we know is there are off-market deals and conversations happening that if you're just looking at what's listed, you may not actually know there's a property that someone has not officially listed, but your agent may have a relationship and know they might sell. They might sell for this down the road. I think you need to be having relationships like that so you open up your opportunities.
Brian, I do enjoy working with you. And I do think that you are always really reinforcing not only for the holistic approach of investment, building net worth. And I know that you also coach and encourage it with loan officers so that when we get into these difficult times, we have other income streams, you know, and I think that is wonderful. And when I pull back to the whole concept of the investment, people always say, marry the house, date the rate. Have we heard any of these, you know? Okay. But just remember one thing, in this market, there's still a philosophy, not a philosophy, there's still analytics that say that properties are going to continue to appreciate, not depreciate, due to the inventory situation that's happening in the United States. And Danielle, I think we talked earlier, we're not going to grow more land, right? Okay. And I do think that people have to remember you cannot refinance the purchase price of your house.
That's a big one. Say that again, Larry.
So you cannot refinance the purchase price of the house.
And what are home prices going to do year over year? Probably going to keep going up, right?
What's your crystal ball say, Brian? I know they're going to go up. I know they're going to go up.
Yeah, here's what I would say is if you just look at historical data, you can go back over decades of data. This year, everyone got it wrong pretty much. So if you look at the reforecast this year, you have anywhere from 3 to I think as much as 6%. I think it's kind of the numbers you're seeing. So in a year that we started and we were told that there would absolutely be a price correction and a decline in home values, we haven't seen that in a while. We're actually seeing appreciation. Why? Because supply and demand. Because people are still growing in population in their families, right? Like we can't stop some of these forces that are happening. You still have international buyers coming in. You still have a lot of things that, what I would tell everyone, if you just use historical data and you're conservative, in that around 4% is the number I like. You just say, you know what, over the next 10 years, some are going to be higher, some are lower. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 6. Hard to find an investment like that over the time. It's time in the market. As Larry said, you can't refinance that purchase price. You're never going to be able to time the market so perfect that you just get this absolute deal over here and you time interest rates. You know, guys, what I've learned, like doing this over 2 decades, is the longer you hold the real estate, the more it grows in value.
It always does. Always
long
does.
Game. Long game.
It really does. That's very well said. I don't know if I can change that. I think what you said is exactly it. You know, but I also know that, you know, you could, if you, not everyone has excess money to go buy treasury bonds that mature and have a guaranteed rate, or municipal bonds are one of the most safest investments. Okay. A lot of people will buy municipal bonds, or treasury bonds. They have a 4 or 5% return, but you need to have cash to do that. So if I'm a young investor, what do? Do I rent and invest in bonds? Of course not. I buy a home with those dollars, and there you get I call that the 2 for 1. Okay. You get not a 2 item, the 2 for 1. You get to live in the house, enjoy the house, raise the family in the house, and your money is working and earning that guaranteed rate of return. Okay. I say guaranteed because historically, real estate will always garner that return. And I think 4% is the number. I really do. I think it's a safe number.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, love these conversations we're having. I just want to take a step back for a minute and hear a little bit more. You know, you guys have a lot of knowledge in the mortgage industry, and I just want to know kind of how each of you got started. And I know that looks different for both of you, but you know, where did you start? How did you get started? And you know, what kind of inspired you to even enter the real estate and mortgage industry to begin with?
Well, my story is one probably like a lot of people in this industry. I did not study to go into mortgage. I did not study real estate. I really
Come
had
on, when you
no
were 15,
qualifications.
you wanted to be a loan officer. When you were
Right.
15. Yeah.
I'm graduating after I'd played soccer. I come back to graduate and no one would hire me. This is a true story, is no one would hire me. But I did have some friends that were in the banking, mortgage, real estate, financial planning, and they all dressed nice in suits and had nice cars. That was originally my appeal. I'm like, man, these guys go to these nice dinners and lunches and they just look really professional. I want to do that because that looked cool. Well, little did I know I wasn't qualified for any of those things. Everyone turned me down for everything I applied for, from financial advisor to this or that. And I finally got a job as a credit officer at Wells Fargo Financial. We would finance furniture, refinance cars. We would do mortgage refinancing, so I learned that way. But I learned the basics of credit, income, and assets from a great mentor that I would come in on the weekends. They would teach me things that today is not even taught anymore. And we would actually go through loan programs. And I fell in love with the mortgage side because, look, financing furniture and cars and stuff is not fun. Like there's no excitement. And through that, my wife and I were trying to buy our first house. And it was so cumbersome. I hated the process. My loan officer at the time wouldn't call me back, didn't explain anything. And I'm like, it's got to be better than this. Like if he can do that and that's his job and he's out playing golf and doing these things, like I can be better than him. So my competition arose and I said, you know what? I've been doing this. I think I have enough relationships. My friends are all buying houses. They're calling me, asking questions. So I went full blown in and decided, you know what? I'm going to start originating just mortgages because doing refinances and car loans and all of that stuff, it's really not that fun making 100 cold calls a day. And I had some friends in the real estate business, fell in love with it because what we went through, I didn't want my friends to go through. And then fast forward, my friends, their parents, I would start marketing myself out. And I just started going out. I'm sure my wife would tell you, we'd go out on the weekends to open houses. And Larry, you'll probably remember this. Like you would take flyers out, bring food out, all this to open houses. And I would go into neighborhoods we couldn't afford yet. And I would go to the really expensive neighborhoods and I would go out every weekend after church. Every weekend I would go by 4 or 5. I would take pictures of the signs of the realtor, which was then who I would call on Mondays. And I tell you, I fell in love with it because of the people, but also I really started to learn that truly to build wealth and to change your family's trajectory and to have a home with a dog and kids and all that, like the home is really where your memories and your heart and everything is. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go change the industry. I'm going to be a loan officer that actually cares about people, shows up. I'm going to work harder than people. And I became a product and a program nerd, and I would read guidelines every week and started to learn marketing. And fast forward, about 10 years later, I decided didn't want to originate loans every day, all day. I wanted to build teams and to teach people what I had learned. And that's now been another 10 years. And so I'm still learning. I tell everybody, look, this industry, you're always learning and growing, or you're getting left behind. And so that's what I love, is it's always changing, whether it's technology, data, people, how we do business, how people choose to do business with us. I think it's a lot of fun right now, as you can be unique and different. And for guys like me and Larry, is like we can just be ourselves, and I'm not confined to a desk all day, every day. And we get to create really meaningful opportunities for people to build wealth and to buy that home.
Every day is different, isn't it? Every day.
It really is.
Are like, I guess it's my turn, huh, Danielle? So back in 1863, no, I'm just kidding. So, no, but seriously, I started my mother was a real estate agent. So I grew up with it. Okay. We had 4 kids, interest rates. My mom's that classic. I remembered when interest rates were 18%. Okay. So my mom started in real estate back in 1978. I was a boy going to junior high school, and we had 4 kids. My mom became a real estate agent to help out. And so I saw the open house signs in my garage, mom going out on Sundays. So my sister Julie, who lives in Montana now in the mountains, she became a processor at a mortgage company. And so I graduated from college. I went to Illinois State, and I was working, ironically, at an appliance and TV store, one of the largest, most successful stores in the United States called Apt. I don't know if I can say that on a podcast, but I'm gonna. Apt sells about $600 million a year in TVs and appliances and electronics out of one location. Met the owner's son. He got me a job selling appliances and TVs. And the owner of a mortgage company that my sister was working for came in to buy a bunch of stuff from me. And I told the bill up very quickly in my hand. And he said, "Hey, you could be a loan officer. You're good with numbers. You can sell. You seem like a nice, genuine, caring guy." Because we went over, he was remodeling a home. And so I said, "Well, working with my sister, I don't know." My sister was tough, okay? She was a processor, okay? And I don't know if I'm taking too much time, but the bottom line is, I went to the owner of the store. I said, "Can I work here part-time? Because being a loan officer is 100% commission." I said, "I need to kind of transition." And he said, "No problem." He goes, "Why the heck would I want to have a young man like you sell appliances and TVs his whole life? So please take this job." So I did. Took the job, and my sister was brutal to me because she was a really good processor. My first files I would hand to her, and she'd shove them back at me, say, "This is going nowhere." So I had to learn to become a guide guru in order to have success. And I did it the old-fashioned way. I took a book with all of the real estate companies and a map with pins on some cardboard, and I pinned all these offices. And every day I mapped out my day that I was going to drive to every one of these offices with some donuts and a rate sheet. And I started and I did it strategically all through the whole greater Chicagoland area. And I got, "Don't come in here again." I got, "Welcome." I got, "Who are you?" I mean, it was everything. I got tickets on my car. It was crazy, but it really was a grassroots growth of my business. And what I learned was, if you're out there, if you're kind to people, if you're personable, if you're passionate, if you believe in what you're doing, it will turn into a successful venture. And what a journey it's been. I'm in my 28th, 29th year of doing this. I've closed over $2 billion in loans. And this is the most challenging environment I've ever been in right now. And I've talked to Brian, actually, we had a conversation earlier that, when you face challenges and you face them appropriately and you do and make the decisions you need to make, success follows tough times. It always does. And I would say this is probably the fourth cycle in my career where it's been a tremendous challenge. And I am thankful for all my experiences, but I want to give people encouragement to say, "Hey, keep your eye on the prize." Everything changes. It always does. As we know by what's going on in the world around us today, you never know when things will change. And if you stay focused and you be a good person, you're gonna have success. That's really where I'm at, and believing in people.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it too, just how things are always changing. And one of the things that seems to be always changing, maybe a little bit of a roller coaster lately, is interest rates. And I guess with that, what advice do you have for potential buyers that are trying to lock in, maybe a good rate or a decent rate, whatever the rate is now, and when's the best time to make a move? Does it matter, what the interest rates are now, or when is the best time for somebody that's looking to move to make that move?
Let's test it out. You go first. Okay.
We're going to test it out.
Let's test it out.
So we live in a world that everybody compares just about everything, like their cars, their houses, their shoes, their purses, their watches, their whatever. And I think we compare interest rates, right? And we want to compare to what you got. Maybe it was a year ago, a month ago, 10 years ago, all these things. The interest rate that matters is the interest rate you can get today. And if your goal is to own a home, our belief, and the data backs this up, is that the home is going to be costing you more money if you wait a year or two. And so the best rate for you is the one when you say, you know what, I've gone through and I've got pre-approved. I know what I can afford. Within my budget, I've looked at this. This is the payment I can afford. And yes, you can use strategies like buy downs, permanent, temporary, all those things. Those are tactics. But the best rate for you is the one that you say, you know what, that aligns up with my payment. I'm going to lock in. This is the home price I can afford. Now I go out there confidently, I can buy it, and it doesn't stretch you. Much like investing, your risk tolerance, how much you're willing to afford. We may be able to approve you for a payment that you say, you know what, you approved me for $3,000 a month. I really only want to be at $2,500 a month. This is why working with a trusted advisor and our team at Revolution, I think this matters more than anything. Because once you get that right, then you can go to bed at night, put your head down and not be stressed about money and things that change in your life. And so I say the interest rate is only one component of the overall picture of what other debts do you have? Can you refinance things? And that's where a guide and that holistic approach matters. But I also, look, I'll say this, over 20 years since we bought our first house, I still wish I had that first house. Many of us say that.
Me
right?
too. I do. We talk about that all the time.
Oh, I saw it the other day. It was $149,000.
Huh?
And just to give you an idea, not in the most fastly appreciating neighborhood. And we were able to lock in at that time a little bit over, I think it was 7.25. We refinanced it later, got it lower. But I look at that home now and it's worth twice as much. It's worth close to $300,000 20 years later. And I could have continued to rent it to pay for my mortgage. And so I only give that as advice and wisdom to say, if I were to go back, what would be the thing that I would do different? It wasn't the rate that mattered. The home would have appreciated. I would have been able to refinance at a certain point within there. And so I made a wise financial strategy purchase. I just didn't stick with it. So I have not repeated that mistake, unfortunately, as many times. That's what I would share to someone today.
Yeah, I agree with all that too. And again, like I said before, you can't refinance the purchase price of the house. I'm reiterating that. At the end of the day, the loan is temporary. What is the average statistic, by the way, if we kind of garner this towards the largest home buying segment, which is millennials, I would say that the average term that someone stays in any mortgage, now this could change with the low interest rates, but let's assume we take anyone that purchases today, they're not going to be in that loan 48 months from now. I can almost guarantee that anyone who gets a mortgage today or in the next 6 months, the chances of them being in that loan for 24, 30 months from now, I will bet you 75 to 80%. And I'm crystal balling it, just throwing it out there. But I really do think 8 out of 10 people will be out of the loans that they buy in today. And again, the home's going to be more expensive. So you are going to see an appreciation in value. So I think interest rates are, I think, Brian, I think what you're really trying to say is, to sort of paraphrase what you said, is that when you look at buying a home today, it shouldn't all be relevant. We hear so many people say, well, I'm standing out because of the interest rates. Okay. And you say, well, I don't know if that's the smartest decision. Okay. And because we know what we know. Okay. And we know that all of you could go down the list of, not even the big conglomerates, get down to the Moody's Analytics and the, companies that are really down there in the trenches looking at where forecasts are going. I would say every single one of them, 99% say in 24 to 36 months, the rates will be significantly lower than today. I haven't found one study that says they're going to go higher 2 years from now.
No.
And I think that we have to preach that a little more to people. Get out there.
Yeah. And Larry, I'll add 2 stats that I share with people is if you're renting today, last time I checked, I've never received a rent refund back except for my deposit, maybe, right? So if you're paying rent, you can basically say that's 100% interest rate, 100% is going to go away. And the other thing I had someone share the other day, this is good data for you, is if you have one of those low interest rates, which we know people do that are 4 or less, and I've had people say, well, I just don't want to leave that interest rate. Great, don't. rent that home, take the positive cash flow in which you can obtain today and go apply that to the new home, because maybe you want to move to a different part of town. Maybe you want to move to a condo. Maybe you want to buy land in a rural area. That's going to offset your new interest rate, because let's just say your mortgage is $3,000, but you can rent that home for $4,000. Take the $1,000 and apply it to your new mortgage. And guess what? Now you have a home appreciating, that someone's renting and paying your mortgage.
Two homes appreciating. Two homes.
So
Right. Yeah.
I tell everybody, look, this is why your strategy matters. And if you're only looking at one piece, which is an interest rate, you're missing out on a pretty big picture. And you'll look back in 20 years, even 10 years, and go, man, I wish I had done that.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point. It really is.
Yeah, I think there would definitely be some listeners that we have that, maybe are locked into one of those low interest rates and not sure that they want to make a move because of that. So, or, are even considering investing it. So definitely some good points, like you said. Perfect. Well, let's see. Just talking a little bit about both of your careers and reflecting on all the changes that are in the market. How do each of your current roles here at Revolution Mortgage prepare you or help you facilitate mortgages in the current state of the industry?
I'll jump on that one. Okay. All right. Brian's an executive leadership, world domination management. That's his position, I think, on his business card. Okay?
I like that title.
I'm just little old Larry out here, okay, selling mortgages. All right. So I'll go first. See, but at the end of the day, Brian and I at the end of the day, we both are selling mortgages. That's what we do. We're providing consulting and we're selling mortgages, and we're at the end of the day, we're in the mortgage business. But I love the model that Revolution gives me. Okay, there's nothing holding me back with bureaucracy in the Revolution model. It's a super low bureaucratic organization. That is one of the things that I love about the company. So I was speaking to a potential recruit, and they were saying to me, okay, so who's the regional manager and who's the divisional vice president and who's the regional vice president of the divisional vice president? Like, just me and you and our few guys. These guys own the company, but kind of in between there's nothing, and that's a good thing, because I don't think I view myself as a branch manager at Revolution. I view myself really as a leader at Revolution. And they're trusting me to run my branch as a good leader. And it's challenging, okay? But the good news is that I find that Revolution's leadership is always available and accessible to me. And I can get Brian, I can get Tony, Tim, Pat. There's so many people that I can go to help me guide this journey. So at the end of the day, I'm autonomous, and I have the support behind me that's there to listen when I need it. And the Revolution is preparing leaders. And I think that they want independent leaders. And I can tell when we have these conversations that, Larry, you make your own decision, but here's our opinion. And there's no crazy mandates coming down. So I really think that to sum it, to put a bow on it, is that Revolution allows me to lead, because that's why they brought me here, because they knew that I could be a good leader, and they leave me alone to lead. And hey, not every day is great, not every day is bad. It's ups, it's downs, but we're doing the right things. I'm excited about the direction of our leadership, and I want to be part of that. That's it. Next, Brian.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job with it. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
It's people like you that's why I joined, is like, you get to make an impact. You get to see people grow professionally and personally. In a lot of the traditional models that we've been a part of, it's very fragmented, and there's this hierarchy, and there's this whole thing that's happening. And to me, that can become toxic very quickly. It can also just create some of those barriers you discussed of, do I have to ask this person or that person? What I loved here is it's very entrepreneurial. You got people that want to be leaders. And yes, we happen to be in the mortgage space. We're very innovative. We're taking on new technology all the time. We're looking at ways that we can get better, faster, stronger, all of that. So I love my role because any given point, somebody needs help, like this afternoon, writing their business plan for next year. Like, hey, will you help me work through my business plan? Great. I've got someone else that wants me to fly in and help them do an event in a market and be one of the speakers and organize that for real estate agents, financial planners. Great, we can do that. And someone else is like, hey, will you help me with my social media? I don't know how to get to customers or get in front of more realtors. Yeah, let's do that. And then, of course, the executive leadership team, we're talking about, hey, how are we performing? What's our team going to rate us in these areas? Are we servicing the team that we've brought on and delivering on our commitments? And what I love is the integrity and the character that runs through is everybody, you just believe in what we're doing. And if you stand by what you say and you just do what you say you're going to do, things tend to work out. Things tend to work out in your favor. And you tell people the truth, and then you back that up with hard work and a consistent discipline to just execute the fundamentals. And so I love it because we said it earlier, but Larry knows this. He sees it better than anybody. This is always changing. And the market in a month from now is going to be different than today. And so we always have to be adaptable and coachable and be ready for the next. So I'm excited about the future because for us to be able to perform like we have in a year like this, knowing what next year is going to provide, it won't be more difficult than this year because we've already learned the lessons. We've learned what we need to do. And so we're more prepared, even if it is a similar market. And so I'm excited about where we're going because we're attracting great people like Larry and others across the country that they're only making us better because they come in and bring their ideas and then we collaborate. And I think the team approach here is what continues to separate us. There's not one person making decisions. It's truly a team.
I agree. That's very well said.
Yeah.
Very well said. You win, Brian. You win.
Hey, I'm part of the team. And so, I listen. I've learned to listen more.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It is a great place to work. It really is.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it sounds like, Revolution Mortgage definitely has the resources and tools and support that, there may be some people listening out there that they're looking for that. And, I think it's in the name too that we're revolutionizing the mortgage industry. So definitely live up to the name. But perfect. Well, again, I think we have everything here that we want to cover, but just thanks again for joining, and hopefully, people that were listening in will take something away from it, whether they're looking to buy or they're looking to make a move to a different mortgage company. Overall, I think this has been some great information, very insightful and helpful with our current trends in the industry. So thanks, Larry and Brian, for hopping on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Cool venture. I'm excited to see us taking this step, and you guys are leading the way. So it's another form of, like Larry said, just leadership of you guys taking the ball and running with an idea, just executing on it.
Definitely. Walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk.
Right.
To stay up to date with our podcast, please subscribe, follow us on social media, and visit our website, revolutionmortgage.com, to learn more about how we are revolutionizing the mortgage industry. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you next time.